Hi, welcome to my presentation on Principles of Teaching Proficiency. So to highlight these proficiency tenets, we have the knowledge of math, knowledge of students, and knowledge of instructional practices. And what I decided to focus on were the last two. So the second one is just having a knowledge of my students and knowing that the person that I chose as my student because we're on spring break is my wife. She's different than a normal student classroom, and she's also a fellow teacher. And also, I wanted to do a more constructivist approach. So our objective was to find the similarities and differences between an exponential function and a linear function. So I asked my wife what she knew about functions.
Hello, this is my lovely wife Jasmine. Hello, and we're going to be exploring functions today, specifically exponential functions and linear functions. So just ask my wife, who's also a teacher, to write what she knows about functions.
And what she wrote down was these three things. A number goes in and a number goes out, input/output, and patterns and relationships. So she had a good understanding of what a function was. But specifically an exponential and linear, well, we'll find out. So exploring exponential growth, we did a paper folding activity before we even kind of mentioned the term exponential growth. We did this activity and it's seen to show the growth of an exponential function.
So now we finished our KWL, or K part of what we know, and then we're going to go into a paper folding activity. So my lovely wife is going to fold paper, and we're going to use this activity to see how exponential growth and exponential functions really work. So my lovely wife is folding paper. She's on her fourth fold, is that it? Now it's going to be on her fifth fold. Ooh, fifth. And then I'm not sure if she can get sixth.
So she ends up getting 6 folds, and I'm not sure if you can read it right here, but it says the number of folds and the number of regions. So this number here, actually let me zoom in, is 2, and then 4, then 8, 16, 32, and 64. So this is growing exponentially. But we didn't actually say the word necessarily right up front. We just use this activity as a springboard. So let's try the next one. Linear growth. So we did a similar activity.
Another table with a number of lines and regions. So she's going to draw a horizontal line. She does a pretty good line. And then so she's going to take that and fill out her table here.
And what happened is, as she added a line, a vertical line, the number of regions increased. So for example, she drew one line, so she had 2 regions, 2 lines, a second line, 4 regions, and so forth. So this represents a linear growth. So without really kind of letting her know what these things are, I asked her what she noticed the similarities of each of them are. So she said the similarities are both of them are getting bigger, there's a pattern, and there's not just some random numbers. She also mentioned that there's some differences. For example, the increases at the same rate in regards to the linear function, and the exponential function doubles by the number before it, and it gets bigger faster. So she sees the similarities and differences, and I didn't necessarily do a lecture or anything like that. I just kind of had some activities to explore these two things. So some principles that we actually used, the constructivist approach. Basically, the student constructs understanding rather than being told what is happening. They kind of create some type of structure of what's happening. And these activities, in my opinion, helped contextualize the exponential and linear functions. Knowing the student helped a lot. It was very different, and I'll go back into this in the challenges, but just having a knowledge of who I'm working with is very helpful. Challenges. I noticed that my wife definitely knew a lot, so trying to have learning at a different level was a challenge in making extension activities and attaching meaning. So how does this exponential and linear function really apply to a student's life? And also interacting with this student, which is my wife, and trying to keep it somewhat professional, but also know that she's my wife and not necessarily speak to her as if I were a student. Um, Instruction, student learning, I feel like the instruction that was designed consisted of activities and just kind of reflecting on those activities and summarizing what those similarities and differences were, and that was the objective. And I felt like the activities helped create tables that actually helped serve as a tool to analyze what was the difference and also the similarities between the two. And I felt like the method fit with my student, which was my wife, just on a professional and personal level. Finally, I feel like instruction really is dependent on who is receiving it. I mean, you can have a lesson and really feel like it's a great one, but notice that it's either too low or even too high for the student. And also, planning is key to just knowing, okay, if this happens, what can I do next? If this happens, if this doesn't happen, then what can I do next? So I feel like these are the two main takeaways from this lesson that I did. So overall, this is the presentation about principles of teaching proficiency. Thank you so much.